Hi everyone, I just wanted to show you how to make this particular section of the garden veil block. I use the fantastic tape from Cluck Sew. It has a 1/4 inch seam. I think she calls it the diagonal seam tape. And so when we're doing something like this that in the pattern says, you know, put a line down the center of your square and sew on that line, you don't need to do that anymore. All you need to do is line up your square on top of the other piece of your block. I'm just going to pop it straight underneath that so that the corner is right in line with my needle. And then I'm just going to make sure that the other corner that I'm going to sew to is on this red line of the tape and sew. And that will give me a nice straight seam that I can then cut my 1/4 inch away from. And so when we come back to do the other side, I've just left this piece free. So I've sewn this one, so that's what we're going to be trimming in a minute. I'm just going to line up that fabric again, and this time I'm going to put my fabric this side so that I'm going from this corner to here. I try not to go from a corner like this because sometimes they get caught up in your feed dogs underneath your needle. I much prefer going from a larger piece downwards. So here we go again, just keeping that corner in line with that red line. And there we have our two pieces sewn. So I'm next going to go and trim these corners away 1/4 inch from where I've sewn so that I have my piece for garden veil. And here's our finished little section with the two corners. I've trimmed that off and then pressed towards the corner and looking gorgeous. So we've now got our 9 patch ready to go with one of the side pieces of the block. And as you can see, we're trying to line up a straight seam and an angled seam. There are probably lots of ways of doing this, but the way that I have found that works the best is putting the two pieces together, hoping that my sewing has probably brought them fairly close together anyway, lining up that raw edge, and then I have a little ruler that has a 1/4 inch line, so it's a 1/2 inch ruler with the line in the middle, and I actually put that line right on the edge of the seam. I then put my pin into the seam, so that's exactly where the 1/4 inch seam is going to go, and I just lift up gently and see I'm quite a bit of way out. I actually move that pin over to that seam, still keeping this edge together, and put my pin in and repeat with the other seam. So I'm putting that 1/4 inch line, my pin into that angled seam, and I'm going to have to come from this other side now, and that's pretty close, but I'm just going to bring that pin over just a little bit more, and I'm going to put my pin in. And now when I sew my 1/4 inch seam along here, I should hit that point, those points perfectly. Let's see if I'm as good as I say I am. Just lining up those end bits. And I don't take the pin out until I get right close to it, so it doesn't give it a chance to move very much. And here is my seams, and I don't know whether you can see that, but that is pretty damn close.